Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome Wounded Touch vocalist Nick Holland to the podcast. Wounded Touch recently released Traumatic Entanglement, a split EP with Fall 50 Feet, on Sharptone Records. Nick talks about the local scene as a hangout for everyone, the struggles of working as a first responder during the early days of COVID lockdowns, how parenthood reshaped his perspective, and more. Thanks so much for checking out this episode of As the Story Grows. If you're brand new to the podcast, welcome. Thanks for listening. You can find links in the show notes or at asthestorygrows.com to our Discord server, for our mailing list on Substack, or you can support the show financially and get early access to every episode via Patreon. $1 a month gets you early access. If you think someone might enjoy this podcast, I would love it if you shared it with them. And if you aren't already subscribed, please hit the subscribe button on your podcast platform of choice. Enjoy getting to know Nick Holland from Wounded Touch.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
Doing all right.
Awesome, man. Sorry, it's a little late getting done here.
Oh, it's all right.
Usually have all my stuff like set up, so I'm good to go. And
Oh, no problem.
plus, like sometimes they tell me who I'm talking to, sometimes they don't. So it's always like, who from the band is showing up?
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Everybody's working their 9 to 5s right now, except me. My schedule is vastly different, so I actually have today off.
that's how it works. That's how it works. Yeah. How's it going today?
Not bad. Just getting over some tiredness. That's all.
Yeah, I understand that. You're currently up in Michigan still?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. The hurricane's not going that way, right? It's staying on the East Coast. You're not getting any residual rain or shit from.
No, it's
yet.
rainy, but nothing here. Just mugginess. One of us is actually in New York right now.
Oh man.
One of us lives there, so he's dealing with it. So vicariously, we're getting to enjoy it.
Yeah. It's lots to enjoy. Where in Michigan are you roughly?
I'm in the Metro Detroit area.
Okay.
I'm like 20 miles north of the city. And the other guys are actually two more are in Metro Detroit, and then one of us is in Lansing, which is kind of, I'm going to do the Michigan thing, and we're all here mostly, and then one kind of over in this area.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom's from Michigan, so I understand the hand thing. It's my uncle still lives up there. So, Saugatuck.
Oh, okay, yeah, I've actually vacationed there before.
Yep. Gayest conservative town in America.
Yeah.
Delightful. Yeah.
Nice and closeted conservative town.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful. What was growing up like?
I had a pretty good childhood
Yeah.
out here. But it's interesting because where I'm at is this applies to, I think, a lot of the other guys. But I'm like right on the edge of where the suburbs become the sticks.
Okay.
So it's like Taco Bell still 5 minutes away, but we have chickens and stuff like that, and live in the and I have solar panels and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's like it's a really nice mixture of the two.
Yeah. That's funny. I grew up in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., so it's like we lived in the north part of the county, north of D.C., so it was like that thing where people would like, there's this pride in being like the hick side of the county, and it's like, yo, we're still rich. You're still wearing Abercrombie. What the fuck are you doing?
Right. We're from the wrong side of the tracks of D.C.
Right. What got you into music?
Oh, definitely my dad. My old man was, they had me young. So like he was still like, a 20-year-old listening to Pantera and Metallica and stuff like that. So nice. I like a lot of people I'm 35. So like most people in my age range, it was that stuff and then into new metal slowly in the 90s.
Gotcha. You're not the first person who've said this, but like there is a generation of parent where like the children have taken on their musical taste at least a little bit. And I'm always curious. I'm like, is that gonna be my kids, or are they gonna be like, I got into black metal because my dad listened to it when we were around?
Right. Well, I think it's got to be too, especially when I was a kid. My access to stuff was whatever I was allowed to have access to.
Yeah.
So in my world, there was what my mom listened to, and then what my dad listened to, and then riding up north with one grandparents was listening to country, and then with the other grandparents was Creedence Clearwater Revival, and that was it. That was all the music that existed in the world. So like, you know, if I wanted to listen to a cassette, it was whatever they had. So I got to imagine it's a little different now because most people's kids have tablets and stuff like that.
Right.
So they can kind of wander out of the sphere of influence, whereas we couldn't, you know?
Yeah. You're kind of stuck. What was that transition from new metal into like metalcore and hardcore?
Oh, I can literally remember. I remember I bought the Freddy vs. Jason soundtrack based on who was it that was on that? There was like some stuff, but I remember there was like at the time like a rare to find like Slipknot track called Snap and stuff like that. But then I remember hearing When Darkness Falls by Killswitch Engage and the After Dinner Payback by From Autumn to Ashes on that soundtrack. And then I just dove into that and like In Flames. And then Black Dahlia Murder was from the town over from where I live. So they were this band a bunch of us had heard of when we were too young to be going even to local shows. But then when they got signed, it was like, oh God, that can happen. And then, so I delved into them, and I can remember that moment, but it definitely started with buying a soundtrack that was half new metal and all the other bands on it. It was like getting a mixtape, you know, and just hearing a bunch of different stuff that opened a ton of doors.
Yeah, it was a lot of that Headbangers Ball vibe when Headbangers Ball revived on MTV2 and Justin.
That was a big one too. Yeah, that was like the year after my ninth grade year. Or like my ninth grade year. And I remember that was another one, like a huge door opener for me. Cause I liked Hatebreed because they were in the Triple X soundtrack too. And just a lot of soundtracks at that point in time.
Yeah. What was the scene like growing up? Like, was there a good, I mean, you mentioned Black Dahlia Murder, but was there a good like local hardcore metal scene?
Oh yeah. And I won't pretend to be like I was going to Detroit when I was 15, you know what I mean? Like I wasn't going to Alvin's and all the big ones downtown. And a lot of people are nostalgic for that, but who weren't there. And I won't pretend like I was a part of that. I was definitely part of like the local metalcore scene in our area, which I'm sure, you know, I don't know what it was like before Black Dahlia Murder. They were a big impact on that. But when we were, me and my friends were coming through, everybody wanted to be Norma Jean. And everybody so it was a lot of white studded belt and panic chords, and it was awesome. It fucking ruled. Like, I just all our normie friends went just because it was something to do, and it's crazy how I look at like fest lineups now and how wild they are, but I think about like how local shows used to be like 300 to 400 people.
Yeah,
like. On a average night, you could have 400 friends in a VFW hall because there was nothing to do in our area except for that. So even if people didn't listen to that kind of music, they were going to go because it was a party basically. And it was a lot of that. Like it was strange crossovers. Like the new metal bands were also playing with the metalcore bands. It was like what now people would call as mixed bills. Then it was like, oh, it's just a heavy show.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of that in our area, and it was awesome.
Yeah, it was just the hip thing to do, which helped the local scene thrive because people are always jonesing for just anything.
Just something to do, yeah.
At what point were you like, okay, I need to be in a band and play music?
So that was funny. I never went to a show before being in a band.
Okay.
I just always wanted to be in a band. And it was like something, same with my friends. We had heard of local shows and stuff, but it wasn't really, the only like local show type thing I'd ever been to was like my school's Battle of the Bands. I just was in a band. And then it was like, okay.
You're thrust into it.
Yeah, we're like, now we're writing music. Now what do I do with it?
Yeah.
So it was like somebody's friend's boyfriend is in a band. They play at this local pizza shop. Let's see if we can play that. Oh, somebody else's cousin is in a band that played here. And just kind of finding scenes it worked in. I just remember wanting to play music first, and then it was like, okay, now what do I do with this?
Yeah.
So, because we couldn't record, so it's not even like we could release it online or anything. We had like a set, but I feel like it was years before we even had recordings, because it would just cost so much, and we were like 15, so it was like, I don't even know what the hell to do other than play it live. So we had to kind of figure out where we belonged.
Yeah. That's still the era before recording became so accessible and easy for everybody to do. Let's talk about Wounded Touch. How did this project get started?
So half the band, actually everybody in the band, but like the two guitarists, Kyle and Mike, were in a band called Steamroller, which was, I can only describe as like Deftones playing power violence, right? And they used to play with my old band all the time, and my old band broke up, and just a bunch of all our bands were kind of defunct at that point, and we were just like wanting to play music, but we had all hit an age, I think, where we were like, man, I'm over pretending like metalcore and that stuff I liked when I was younger isn't cool.
Yeah.
like I like this stuff. I like Panic Chords. And this would have been in like 2018, where, you know, like Vane still hadn't really even caught on yet. And then like
Knocked Loose wasn't big yet. Yeah.
No, Knocked Loose was still playing to like 50 people rooms. Yeah. And like there was like this band I remember that had played at my house called Pulled Under that sounded like early record Zayo and Poison the Well, and they were so far ahead of the time, them and old Wounds, and they still hadn't really caught on. And I wanted to play stuff like that, and we were just like, let's try it. Let's just do it for fun. And we got signed to Smart Punk based on like a mutual friend, and it just kind of took off and did way more than we ever expected out the gate. Yeah. I thought this was straight up going to be like a bedroom project. And and then we started playing Fest that first year and some stuff, and I was like, well, this is way more than I thought it was going to be. And then we ended up touring the UK and stuff, and nothing that any of us expected.
Yeah. What was the inspiration for the band name?
I think the kind of I destroy everything I touch, like feeling, like everything especially at that time, like every relationship I'm in, like is destroyed or ruined, or just that feeling of like I make everything worse that I'm a part of. And it just kind of was the name we had a bunch of names, and that was just kind of the one that stuck.
Yeah. From Day Zero Forward comes out November 2019. And I mean, obviously, not long after that, everything shuts down. How did you guys navigate lockdown and the pandemic?
Oh, it was hard. That set us back, because when we did that EP, you know, it wasn't huge, but it was just starting to do some stuff. And like Shane Told from Silverstein's on it, and like all these cool things had lined up. And then it just stopped, like, you know, and selfishly, you know, I don't want to be like, oh, that damn pandemic. Like, you know, it sucked. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, if it wasn't for that. But it did do a lot. But we just wrote in lockdown. We just, after that came out, we couldn't play any shows. We couldn't do anything. So we just wrote, had no idea if the label would let us do a record or anything yet, and they were in the same thing. They were starving for content, so it just, doing the EP allowed us to get just enough stuff under our belt, I think, that it made us ready to do that record. Even made us, I'll say, it made us feel like we were ready to do a record. We probably weren't, but there was nothing else to do. And like, I remember it was crazy when we we're writing it through voice memos texted to each other and voicemails, and like video chats and stuff like that with all of us in the room, like people just playing a riff and going, try that twice, writing a note and stuff like that. So there was a lot of it was the most unique writing experience I've ever had, for sure. And that's, I think, like the EP didn't get the life I think I wanted it to have, or that any of us wanted it to have, because we couldn't tour on it. We couldn't do anything on it, because it came out in November. we played through the winter, and then 5 months into it coming out, just so
just how much of the lyrical content and theming on America Anxiety was pandemic related, or was it just kind of
the majority of it, at least a reflection of what was going on? There were 2 songs that lyrically were written beforehand, but a lot of it was, so I'm an EMT for Detroit Fire, and I got COVID March of 2020, before we really even knew what it was. So I remember battling that while reading online from loved ones that it was fake, that it wasn't real, while I'm sick with it. And my partner at work, he's on a vent, or not my partner. My partner was sick, but one of our friends on another unit was on a vent. Mm-hmm. My partner was sicker than I was, and I was sick. And everybody from the job, we're I'm just experiencing it while being told it's fake. And it built a lot of resentment. And I think a lot of the guys in the band also had a lot of frustration as well. So it is a angry and sad record too, because then my best friend died in lockdown. So then that was a whole other thing. So it's it is such a reflection of that. And then it's difficult to kind of recall now because life is so different for most of us. None of us had kids before when that record came out. Now 2 of us are dads and married and stuff like that, but that wasn't the case when we did that record. So it's definitely a time capsule of that exact moment for all of us.
Yeah. You have this new split EP coming out, Traumatic Entanglement. What was the catalyst for doing a split this go around? And
us and Fall 50 Feet have been wanting to do stuff together for a minute, and it just never lined up. We couldn't play any shows together. I've only met one of them in person once, Jim, who came to our record release. But we've a lot of mutual friends and have been into each other. So couldn't make other stuff work. And we were sitting on 2 songs and they were sitting on 2 songs, and that ones that we had written. And Matt from Norma Jean, we had played with them, and he lives in Michigan now.
Okay.
And he really wanted to record us, and we had these 2 songs. So we used it as an excuse to record. He's like, hey, I want to test out my new studio. Just bring some material. Let's do it. So we recorded them. We're all right, well, now what do we do with them?
Yeah.
So we hit up Fall 50 Feet and just talking back and forth, and they had 2 songs. We're like, well, let's just do a split.
Nice.
So they're so vastly different from us, but also similar enough that we're like, okay, this won't be like a split where it's 4 songs back to back that all sound the same, because it's 2 different bands, vastly, and there's vastly different in the sound, I think.
Yeah, it was interesting. I'd forgotten it was a split at first, so when I hit play on the record at it started, I was like, that's a different sound, and I was like, oh no, that's not.
Yeah, because they're the first 2 songs.
Yeah. It was so wild. I was like, that's a very different sound for the band.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Where'd the name for the split come from?
We just been shooting ideas back and forth, and I think we want to. It's meta in that we wanted to comment on the fact that it's a split, and there were some buzzwords, and that was kind of one of those things where we took a word from one title that Dave had and a word from one title that I had, and mixed them together, and that we felt commented on the overall material as well as kind of the subject of it being a split.
Yeah. Who did the artwork?
Ari from Wormrot.
Okay.
Yeah. I've always wanted to use something from Rotworks, and I showed the idea to Fall 50 Feet, and they're like, yeah, let's go with that. So it was cool. There was no back and forth on artwork. That was a very simple thing to do, and we've always had kind of the manga vibe with some of our artwork too, so it kind of still extends on that, I feel.
Yeah, that was my next question. You've always been a very visual band. Your album artwork is always super creative and compelling visually. How important is that aspect to the music?
Huge to us, and that might be a generational thing,
Yeah.
But I think we all still remember buying albums based on the artwork,
right?
And to me, I can never imagine phoning in cover art.
Yeah.
Because it'll never be a promo of us. We did that for a single because it was it was a single, and it's for this split because, you know, Spotify, I guess, tracks better with different artwork for singles or something. I don't know, but for in terms of like a cover, I can't ever imagine phoning it in, even if like it's not someone's cup of tea. Like, to me, the artwork has to sync up. Like, you remember that release's artwork as well as the title. Like, I can't picture Jane Doe with a different cover.
Oh yeah,
like, that is the album.
It's iconic. Yeah.
Right. Like to me, those are it's an important thing. Same with like lyrics. Like lyrics and artwork to me are an important part of the music just as much as the music. Yeah. And we've all been all about that. And same with something else we're working on. We were like, the cover, we probably put more thought into it than we need to, but yeah, it's just definitely something we really focus on.
Yeah. Splits out in 2 weeks. What's the rest of this? I mean, this year's, I guess it's August, year's coming to a close. Like, what's the rest of this year and the future of the band look like?
So we just got out of the studio tracking our next LP.
Okay.
So we're pushing this, and we're doing like some dates in New York and on the East Coast in November. Got a couple big shows lined up, but this year has mostly just been spent on, you know, recording, and so that we have the split that will immediately be followed up by an album. And then next year is the plan to like just be out on the road with both of those releases. Yeah.
Yeah. Has like coming out of the pandemic and like kind of voicing so much frustration, and then like, I don't know, people becoming parents and having this life shift change the band's approach to like lyrics and what you guys want to say?
Oh, definitely. 'Cause it's like absolutely a happier person than when I did the last record, but like there's more to say.
Yeah.
Because like even like becoming a parent is like a whole other type of thing. Like with all the good stuff, it's like a whole new set of anxiety, whole new set of fears, and like things of not feeling good enough. And, you know, there's a lot of imposter syndrome you get as a parent. There's just life is a lot more interesting looking through it in a different lens than you used to. So it's almost like writing about subjects that I feel like we revisited some stuff that we might have even talked about before, but it's through such a different lens that it almost feels like a different subject altogether.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot in the world as well as like our personal lives since that last one. So I definitely think it still maintains a fresh outlook. Scattering like leaves, that's all that this split was something that like you know, we just did, and for the first single, which is a 90-second like glorified intro, to have jumped on all these playlists and all the stuff, it's weird to me, man. Keep trying to keep up with it, and I appreciate all these interviews and all this stuff. So I just want to say thank you to everybody who's listening and sharing it.